When you start thinking about how hobbies interact with the community and how a community is underpinned by everybody being a good citizen, we thought it would be really good to learn a bit more about citizenship with a capital C, the subject that we all do at school, even if we don't realise we study it. So to that end, I caught up with Jane Haynes, who is the head of citizenship at Thomas Keble Secondary School just near Stroud. We had a wonderful conversation, and here's a short clip from it. It's so nice to be with you, Jane, and how are you doing today?
I'm fine, thank you very much for inviting me along,
I
Martha.
thought we'd just start off by asking you what citizenship is and just a bit more about it, really.
So citizenship was made a statutory national curriculum subject back in 2002, so quite a long time ago now. And when that occurred, it was part of an initiative to try and increase voter turnout numbers, because numbers had been in decline, and they just wanted to kind of make sure that the public were informed, and a branch of that was to try and ensure that our young people across the nation were interested. And indeed, numbers have begun to increase. So we'd like to think that citizenship teaching has been an element of that. It happens at both Key Stage 2, Key Stage 3 and Key Stage 4. So even at primary school, pupils are encouraged to, and I quote, develop understanding of their communities and society and have opportunities to be active citizens, which I think is really nice that we kind of start them young in this process. And then at secondary school, at Key Stage 3, all pupils will receive a grounding, I would say, in politics and the legal system and financial issues, both sort of personal finances like sort of taxation, but also beginning to understand the wider concepts of the economy for the nation, which is, very good training. Then GCSE citizenship, which I teach at my school as well, is an option that students can take. There's about just over 20,000 pupils gained this qualification this year, and the numbers have been steadily rising. And I was looking at the FFT website, which is available for anyone to look at, and it shows kind of that both girls and boys enjoy this subject equally, and that that the numbers, as I say, have been rising for both genders, which I think is very encouraging.
I've realised my own ignorance really in not realising that it was a kind of statutory part of the curriculum, and I think that's probably because when I was at school I wasn't aware of it being sort of a direct subject. So is it true to say that some schools would have it as a subject in its own right, and other schools, do they incorporate it in a slightly different way?
No, you're quite right, Martha. There's quite a lot of differences across the country as to how it is delivered. Obviously, if you're doing it as a distinct GCSE, then it's going to be clear and obvious on anyone's timetable that that's there. But certainly at sort of at the lower key stages, sort of 2 and 3, it would be part of other activities potentially. So at my school, we teach it as a distinct subject. As I say, as a taster for Key Stage 3, so that they can choose if they want to do it as an option, so they would know that they were having a citizenship lesson. But we do it alongside the PSHE curriculum, which is the RSE curriculum as well. So some students may go to those lessons, be it called social studies or something like that, perhaps in some of their schools, and may not realise that it's a citizenship lesson rather than a personal social health kind of education lesson. So there might be that. So you probably did have some when you were young, but maybe it wasn't distinct in that fashion.
As such. No, that's really helpful. That's joined the dots for me a bit. Just moving on a little bit then, looking at the kind of nuts and bolts of the citizenship course, I think I'm right in saying that there's a sort of out-of-classroom element to the assessment of citizenship. Is it called citizen action?
Yes. So when we say out of classroom, it's not necessarily that the students are not in a lessons, because obviously they have to be in school. So they are in school, but it's outward looking. So if I give you just a little example, is that all right? Yes? Okay. So obviously even at Key Stage 3 we're trying to do this. So for instance, for my Year 7, we'll do a citizen action which is based on the environment, and Obviously, citizenship has a very much of a focus on like humanity and citizens, but you can't take out the environment, because obviously without a solid and environment that allows us to have a sustainable future, there won't be humanity. So the two are very, very closely linked, even though the environment isn't necessarily kind of written within the citizenship course. You know, they are hand in glove, I would say. So we do a topic where we lead on from some rights work that we do in class about the fact that Eleanor Roosevelt, who said that when you want to make a change, you have to start at home. So we then look at researching what changes people could make in the home in order to support environmental development. And once they've done this kind of research, they then begin to think about, well, what will I campaign for? What can I say I'd like people to try and do? So example, it could be everybody to have a bug box, everybody to make hedgehog corridors, or to ensure that there's some water in their gardens for wildlife. Those sorts of like different things, or it could be energy saving. And then they have to think about, well, how are we going to change hearts and minds about that? What can we do? And then they think about different ways in which they can do this, both through kind of potentially, you know, writing to our MP, saying about the kind of things that are important to them, and then also, you know, perhaps trying to spread the word to other students in the school to encourage them to make that changes at home. So that kind of gives you an idea of one that, yes, is teacher-led, but it's just beginning to help the students understand the things that are at their fingertips, their sort of toolkit to make those changes. And then that goes all the way through year 8. We do a community cafe where they've learnt all about dementia, and then the resources they make, they then share with all the visitors who come in, and they run that cafe, you know, from writing to local people, to like local supermarkets, to ask if they could have donations for things, tea, coffee, biscuits, flowers, you know, that kind of thing for the table. They then run the whole thing, so they will then invite people from the local communities, from different groups and things, and sit at the table and discuss their work with those people and have a cup of tea and a piece of cake, which is kind of scary for 12 and 13-year-olds to sit down at a table with a group of strangers who they've never met before and start a conversation. So that's really good skills for life as well there. And then in the GCSE, it's an essential part of the curriculum. They have to do something. So they work in small groups of 2 or more, normally kind of 4. And they've done incredible things in the past. I've been running the course for many years now, and we've done things like prevent single-use plastics in school. We've had traffic calming measures put into the local village. We've ensured that all of our local parks now have disabled equipment, and that the access to those parks is wide enough for people to come through. We've looked at measures of combating loneliness. We've supported homeless charities and lobbied for political change. I mean, the list has been endless of the good works and the good things that young people have been passionate about, and have then learned how to kind of bring these things to actually come to fruition.
And isn't that inspiring? We can all go to those around us, whether that's in school or outside of it, because we can all instigate positive change at a small grassroots level and make a real positive difference when we think things should improve in different areas. But anyway, I wish I could play the whole interview that I did with Jane, but we haven't quite got time for that. So if that clip's got you more interested, then head to the Future Me YouTube channel, because we've uploaded the whole interview there. So yeah, check out Future Me Gloucestershire on YouTube to find the rest of this interview and lots more content.